I didn't want them to fight. I really
No?
I really like both of those guys. Both guys, class act. It would look like I'm leaning towards.
Floyd Mayweather talked about the possible fight between Terence Crawford and Jaron Ennis after beating Israel Madrimov by a wide margin to become a 4-division world champion. Crawford now has a lot of options for his next fight. Crawford has recently said that he wants to move up to 168 pounds and fight Canelo Alvarez in a big fight. After trying out for the first time at 154 pounds, Crawford didn't change his mind about his goal after beating Madrimov. He told Dayon, "I guess it's just another step on the way to greatness. Not only that, but it's also good for the bank." The head of the General Entertainment Authority, Turki Alalshik, said, "I gave Alvarez an offer. If he's smart, he'll accept it. If they accept, we want to see this fight." Could the fight between Canelo and Crawford happen on September 14th? If Alvarez wins his match against Edgar Berlanga, the world is ready for you. But there is another possible matchup. Crawford was getting ready for his fight against Madrimov, so Ennis and Crawford met during fight week. They kept their composure, yet both Ennis has openly declared his readiness to chase Crawford up to 154 pounds, aiming to secure a blockbuster showdown at that weight class.
That's the fight that everybody wants to see.
Yeah.
I want to do it.
Do you respect him as like when he's like, I got a couple fights left, I'm at the end, I'm only trying to get mega fights, so.
I understand it, but don't lie or cap to the net and make it seem like I had the opportunity to fight you and I didn't. I never did. You know what I'm saying? And then that one time that I did, we said they called and we said never heard nothing else back about it. So
right.
I mean, I respect it though. I mean, get your money. You know what I'm saying? Do your thing, but don't be capping on it.
If Crawford finds the Canelo fight out of reach, will he turn his attention to Ennis instead? Or might he aim to dominate the super welterweight division, striving for an extraordinary third, undisputed world title on August 10th? Ortiz will fight against Serhii Bohacek for the WBC super welterweight world title. Would Crawford be willing to fight the winner, who is already a world title holder at 154 pounds? Crawford has a golden chance to enhance his super welterweight accolades by challenging the winner of this match. This bout could further cement his legendary position in boxing history. However, Turki Alalshik seems convinced that Jaron Ennis has big shoes to fill in the boxing world on social media. Alalshik suggested an enticing matchup between Ennis and the pound-for-pound legend Terence Crawford at junior middleweight, telling fans that it could happen soon in a triumphant Philadelphia homecoming. 27-year-old Ennis showed his prowess by halting Nottinghamshire's David Avanesian within 5 rounds. This marked his inaugural bout under Eddie Hearn's Matchroom boxing banner, and his commanding performance did not go unnoticed by Alalshik. "I just reached out to boxer Jaron Ennis and Eddie Hearn to congratulate him on his win, and I love to see Ennis in a fight with Crawford at weight 154 soon," tweeted Alalshik. Ennis promoter Eddie Hearn shared his optimism about the prospective matchup, but noted it would probably occur in 2025. Hearn emphasized that Ennis's upcoming fall bout won't feature Crawford as his opponent. Hearn said, "He is going to move to 54 at some point, but you don't want to really go before you have taken care of business." Hearn related a discussion regarding the possible battle between Crawford and Ennis that he had with Alalshik. Ennis, sitting next to Hearn, voiced his opinion with a quick retort. Send the contract. He detailed his conversation with Alalshik. "I said to His Excellency, maybe if you want, we will go co-main event on Dmitry Bivol and Artur Beterbiev in October out there in Saudi Arabia, or we could come back here in Philadelphia." Additional storylines are developing, according to Mike Coppinger from ESPN. Saul Canelo Alvarez signing a stay-busy bout in Los Angeles this fall, setting the stage for a blockbuster showdown with Terence Crawford in 2025. Meanwhile, Ennis remains a looming presence, but the world's most influential fight sponsors, the Saudis, highly interested in orchestrating this potential showdown. On the other hand, Jaron Ennis was spotted by Terence Crawford during his weighing for his out with Israel Madrimov. Crawford approached Ennis and said, "I thought you weren't going to watch." Boots folded his arms tightly as Crawford neared a subtle gesture that could easily be seen as a preemptive defense in case Terence chose to swing a fist. "We can't Fault Boots for folding his arms defensively. Crawford's approach was so unpredictable it left everyone guessing. With the way Crawford closed in on him, it was anyone's guess what he was planning. For all we know, Crawford might have been scheming to get a jump on Ennis before they even signed the fight contract. Boots Ennis has been challenging Crawford for what feels like an eternity, eager to seize the attention and emerge as the new star, yet Crawford has shown little interest in accommodating the rising talent, setting his sights instead on a high-profile showdown with Canelo Alvarez at 168 pounds next year. Had Crawford been keeping up with the latest updates, he would have heard that promoter Eddie Hearn recently announced his presence at the fight. Hearn also expressed his desire for Crawford to face his fighter Boots should the much-anticipated Canelo Alvarez, who told through Hearn believes that Boots has the potential to overcome Crawford, viewing this matchup as the perfect chance for his fighter to solidify his status as a rising star in the boxing world. I came here to support my teammate Andy Cruz and see him put on a show, and I was invited, so I couldn't turn it down. Boots Ennis told Emily Austin of Dayon about why he came to the Riyadh season weighing. Prior to the bout on Saturday, Boots made his way to Los Angeles, where he quickly became Crawford's possible opponent for the future. Errol Spence held the job for a very long time. Between 2018 and 2023, the two were associated with a struggle against one another for about 5 years. Finally, last year, there was a match which Crawford decisively won by stoppage and was known for dominating. Ennis was in a position to challenge him immediately following that outcome. Having already won the IBF interim belt, he was eligible to be a mandatory challenger. This implied that Boots would get Crawford's new title as his next opponent. Crawford, however, was unable to accept Ennis's challenge because he was originally needed for a rematch with Spence, which never happened. A few months later, Ennis won the welterweight world title IDFAL after he lost the IBF title last month. Ennis walked back into the ring for his inaugural title defense, facing off against David Avanesian, whom Crawford had previously dispatched in just 6 rounds. Boots took the fight to its limit by ending it after just 5 rounds. Then he reaffirmed his challenge and stated that he would be prepared to up the weight in order to face Crawford next. Ennis, Crawford's formidable new rival, was at ringside ready to seize the chance to confront him again, assuming victory unfolds as anticipated. Obviously, he wants to fight Terence Crawford. He wants to unify 147 pounds. That's the priority. But after the fight with David Avanesian, His Excellency Turki Alalshik facetimed me and said, "If Canelo won't fight Crawford, then I want to make that fight." Ennis producer Hearn told TalkSport on Friday. Hearn added, "We love that fight. It's a very dangerous fight, but it's one of the best fights in boxing." During Friday's weigh-in, the two got into a short altercation backstage. Crawford looked back at Boots before turning on his heel and walking away.
Thought you wasn't gonna watch it.
David Avanesian is currently savoring a well-earned rest in America following his narrow defeat in the bout for Jaron Ennis's IBF welterweight title in Philadelphia last month. Meanwhile, his trainer Carl Greaves has returned to the grind in Newark, Nottinghamshire, while the unexpected alliance has proved successful for Avanesian, who secured a WBA title and sustained a fierce reign as the European welterweight champion, has also afforded Greaves the chance to challenge his skills against two of the premier welterweights of today. Avanesian, with a record of 30 wins, 5 losses and 1 draw, bravely stepped in on just a month's notice to two-face Ennis after Cody Crowley, sidelined by a failed eye exam. Known for his relentless aggression, Avanesian delivered his trademark fiery performance. However, after sustaining significant facial injuries, he was knocked down and subsequently retired by his corner after the 5th round. In December 2022, Avanesian traveled to Omaha, Nebraska, for a bid at Crawford's WBO welterweight title. The bout finished in the 6th round, but it remains a point of contention for Avanesian's team. The controversy centers around Crawford's Everlast gloves, which, after splitting open during the match, were inspected prior to the start of round 6. Crawford and Ennis would make an incredible fight between two of the best boxers in the world. Greaves has devoted countless hours studying footage of both fighters and watching them throughout fight week. He's experienced their demeanor on fight night up close and has directly watched their remarkable skills as soon as the first bell rings.
Fighter is, I know he is no good, understand? Check gloves, I know think nothing before. When I go start fight as European title, I tell my coach, I Kerma Lecharaga, I say, listen, please see he gloves. And Kerma Lecharaga team, very good, nice people. When I go fight Crawford, I never think about gloves. I think, listen, he is good boxer. I think he don't need this.
As Crawford beat Israel Madrimov this past weekend, it's the perfect moment to get Greaves' take on how he and are stack up in several key areas. He said Boots. Ennis is the busier, more active boxer. In my opinion, he's a bit younger and a bit fresher. On the other hand, Crawford is very, very patient. His timing is very good, and he plans just the right strikes at just the right times, whereas Ennis is busier. Greaves further added, I think that Crawford is a heavier-handed fighter. I was talking to David, and he said that Crawford hits harder, but that Boots Ennis was a bit sharper and busy. Then you take into consideration that when David fought Crawford the whole 6 rounds he was in there with him, he had dodgy gloves. When Avanesian came out of the ring afterwards, he said he'd never had pain or lumps on his head like it. Greaves stated that David had commented on the power of Egidijus Kovaljauskas, noting that Kovaljauskas, who stopped Avanesian in 6 rounds in 2018, hits hard. David also stated that there is no comparison between Kovaljauskas and Boots Ennis. Greaves interpreted this to mean that Ennis is sharp and busy, but did not seriously hurt him aside from a flash knockdown. According to Greaves, I would say Crawford is far more experienced. I know that Boots has had a lot of fights, and if you look at their records, they are highly similar, but you've got to look at the level that Crawford has been fighting at, and he's way more experienced at that level than Ennis. I do think that there's probably a bit more to come from Ennis, though. As he goes on stepping up through the levels, he's going to have to show how good he is. Greaves added that Boots Ennis and his team are much better people, describing them as proper and straightforward and genuinely nice. He contrasted this with his experience around the Crawford team, which he felt was set up to annoy them. He recounted an incident at the public workout where Crawford supporters harassed them and mentioned that this negative behavior continued throughout the week. While Greaves acknowledged that Crawford himself is very relaxed, he criticized the people around Crawford as not being good. Greaves added, it's hard for me to compare the two and say who would win, but I do think if David had more notice and was better prepared the longer that fight with Ennis, and the more he was in it, it's a bit frustrating really. In nutshell, and after speaking to David, I think Crawford would beat Boots Ennis. Meanwhile, Jaron Ennis has continued to target at Terence Crawford, but despite the latter leaving welterweight for a fresh challenge, Boots gained the IBF title when Crawford gave up the titles at round 147, but he also lost out on the fight he truly desired. After a commanding defense against David Avanesian, he showed a willingness to move up to super welterweight to face Bud. However, Crawford's interest seems to lie elsewhere, as he is more focused on taking on Saul Canelo Alvarez, a super middleweight, multi-division world champion and legendary 50-0 undefeated fighter. Floyd Mayweather predicted a hell of a fight. In an interview with Fight Hype, talking about this possible bout, Mayweather said it would be a hell of a fight with Boots Ennis. Like we always say, somebody's got to give you a chance, an opening. Somebody has to give Boots the opening and chance. Whether it's Terence or somebody else, it seems like it's been difficult for Crawford to get the Spence fight done. It's been difficult for him to get the Canelo fight done. So his other choice is probably Boots. In 2013, Mayweather found himself in a similar predicament when he squared off against Canelo. Although Canelo lost by majority decision that night, he later rose to rule the sport both in his ring performances and in statistics. The gamble proved worthwhile for Mayweather, as that win has only grown more impressive with time. When asked if there would be more benefit from the Crawford fight or not, Mayweather replied that Crawford should think about what he wants. Mayweather said, you have to ask yourself, is it about the reputation, is it about the money, or is it about both? I'm not in these fighters' heads, so I don't know, but if you do want to fight him, fight him. If you don't fight somebody else. Do what makes you happy. Unfortunately for Ennis, Crawford claims that Canelo is the fighter who will bring way more to his bank account and way more to his reputation. Crawford has mentioned that he is searching for that fight despite this. Terence Crawford vs. Jaron Ennis is one of the most awaited fights that could be made in the sport right now. Ennis, a native of Philadelphia, has quickly established himself as a welterweight hero and holds the IBF title. A lot of people hope to see the two united in the future. When asked how Boots compares to the other fighters in the division, past welterweight champion Danny Garcia told YSM Sports Media that he was confident in his ability to win. Garcia said, I think he can beat them all. He was then asked if that included Crawford. And he repeated the statement. He said, "I think he can beat them all." At last, he weighed in on Ennis's recent performance, where Ennis won a TKO win over David Avanesian to defend his IBF welterweight title at the Wells Fargo Center in Philadelphia in mid-July. Garcia said he did great, a plus, as Crawford triumphed over Madrimov this past weekend. The buzz for a showdown between him and Ennis has increased. Ennis has expressed his willingness to step up to super welterweight to make the bout happen, and Crawford himself has admitted that a fight against Ennis makes more strategic sense than a clash with Sal Canelo Alvarez at 168 pounds if Terence Crawford could dispatch David Avanesian in the 6th round. Then Jaron Ennis, who took out the European welterweight champ in the 5th, should be capable of even bigger feats. Why not set up a fight between these two conquerors, Avanesian, and find out who truly reigns? Supreme Menace's standout performance has clearly caught the eye of His Excellency Turki Alalshik, who's now keen to see him square off against Crawford in the light middleweight division. However, Oscar de la Hoya remains skeptical, saying that Boots might face defeat not only from Crawford but also from Virgil Ortiz Jr., another powerful contender. Ennis was defending his title for the first time since becoming a full champion, a status he earned after Crawford's departure from the IBF championship. Crawford has since moved up to light middleweight, with many speculating that this change is a strategic move to set up a coveted match with Canelo Alvarez. Meanwhile, Virgil Ortiz Jr. had been set for a fight on the same day as Crawford, but his bout with Tim Chu was scrapped. Instead, Ortiz Jr. will now face WBC interim light middleweight title Serhiy Bohachuk on August 10th in Las Vegas. Oscar de la Hoya seems unimpressed with Jaron Ennis's prospects, dismissing him as no match for fighters like Buds Crawford or Virgil Ortiz Jr., who he believes would dispatch the Philadelphia effortlessly. However, His Excellency Alalshik swiftly countered with a challenge. Let's see, the anticipated clash between Terence Crawford and Jaron Ennis has been one of boxing's most eagerly awaited bouts in recent memory, and despite both fighters residing in the same weight class, their paths never quite aligned for about Crawford, as the reigning champion was bound by the requirement to defend his title against Ennis who held the IBF belt. However, Crawford's pre-existing contractual commitment to a rematch with Errol Spence Jr. complicated matters, preventing the matchup from materializing.
What we know? I don't know nothing. I'm trying to find out what I know. Enlighten me.
What you mean enlighten me? You for Devanesian, you could for me.
You jumped up out of my sanction body to go fight in the IBF. So what I know?
What you mean?
What you mean? What I mean? Would you rank that in the WBA or not?
Yo, it don't
or the
even
WBA?
matter. Yo,
all right, catch up, little homie. Catch up then. If it don't matter, catch up.
Yo, he picked Evanesian.
Catch up.
Evanesian was way under.
You just said it don't matter. Catch up. I'm talking about before that.
He not about it. We already know he not about what he's talking about.
I'm not about what? I'm not about what?
You don't want to fight.
You said I'm not about what?
You don't want to fight.
Man, go to sleep.
Faced with the inability to move forward, the IBF eventually chose to revoke his title, downgrading him from a unified champion to merely undisputed, with the Spence Jr. rematch no longer on the horizon. Crawford opted to try his luck in a higher weight class. Many assumed that this shift might be his strategic play to position himself for a high-stakes showdown with Canelo Alvarez. Eddie Hearn continues to hold out hope for a potential showdown between Jaron Ennis and Terence Crawford. In a recent post-fight press conference, he shared that he had a FaceTime call with His Excellency Turki Alalshik during their talk. Ennis allegedly mentioned to the chairman of the General Entertainment Authority of Saudi Arabia that he could send over the contract for a Crawford bout. Hearn is hopeful that after Crawford overcomes the Madrimov challenge, a bout with Ennis could be on the horizon. The English promoter wasn't particularly bullish about a fight between Canelo Alvarez and Butt happening in the near future. Consequently, a match with Boot seems reasonable and might be feasible by early 2025.
It's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, Boots is the best welterweight in the world. I mean, tell me a better welterweight than Boots Ennis. Impossible. There isn't one. So, he's the best welterweight in the world. I mean, we just finished a FaceTime with His Excellency, who asked me, will we make the Crawford fight? And the answer, Boots said to him, send the contract. So Terence Crawford, if he gets past Madrimov on August 3rd, will have the chance to see if Boots is a world-class fighter. And I think if Canelo Alvarez doesn't fight Terence Crawford, which I don't think he will, I believe you're going to see Boots Ennis against Crawford if he beats Madrimov in 2025.
With Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. out of the picture, Boots Ennis has emerged as the undisputed star in the welterweight class. In an interview with YSM Sports Media, Roy Jones Jr., the multi-weight world champion, hailed as the greatest fighter of his generation, described Ennis as a formidable opponent, providing every difficult challenge for the two-time undisputed champion. Jones said, "I don't know yet because we saw Boots in against a guy that has touched him enough to really test his chin, so that's the only thing we don't know about him yet. We don't know if he can take a real punch, although he now has the chance to unify the welterweight titles just as Bud did." Boots has shown a keen interest in stepping up to 154 pounds to make the matchup a reality with the backing of Turki Alalshik from Riyadh season. The possibility suddenly seems within reach. Jones further added, "As far as skills go, he got everything. That fight could be very difficult because he has everything. When a guy is as talented with the skill level that Boots has, anything can happen. Don't get me wrong, but has the skill level to great fight since 2023. Fans have eagerly anticipated a showdown between Crawford and Ennis. The excitement intensified when Ennis dispatched Avanesian in a faster time than Crawford did. This impressive performance has reignited discussions about a potential welterweight mega fight capturing the imaginations of boxing enthusiasts everywhere. However, Shocker Stevenson, a teammate of Crawford, recently shot down the notion of a showdown between the former undisputed welterweight champion and the current reigning star at 147 pounds. Stevenson witnessed Ennis's showdown on June 13. After the match, he spoke with Fight Hub TV and was asked about a possible Crawford-Ennis fight. His reaction was, "I'm not answering that question. I love my big brother, but I think he's a hell of a fighter. I think Boots is the future of fighting. To hell of a fights. Ennis will be undisputed at 147. Yeah, nobody at 147 can beat Ennis." Jaron Ennis demonstrated why he is hailed as one of boxing's brightest stars, with his impressive IBF title win against David Avanesian, boosting his record to 32 wins with his 29th career stoppage victory. And he is now looking forward to fighting Terence Crawford, but solidified his reputation as the undisputed welterweight champion with a decisive TKO win over Errol Spence Jr. in July 2023. Hailing from Nebraska, he has now beaten Israel Madrimov for the WBA title. Despite the former welterweight champion's quest for greater glory in higher weight divisions, Boots stays determined to face but at 147 pounds. After his win over Avanesian, he had this to say, "Let's make the fight happen. I want the big names, Terence Crawford, anybody else with big names. Let's make it happen." Even though Antonio Tarver is thrilled with Jaron Ennis, he still thinks the Philadelphia native cannot defeat Terence Crawford in a fight. Antonio Tarver, the former light heavyweight world champion, has weighed in on the prospective Crawford versus Ennis fight. "I'm a Crawford guy. I'm always going to run with Crawford. I saw him a long time ago, and my mind was made up a long time ago," said Tarver when speaking to Fight Hype. He added, "He's done nothing but confirm everything that I thought he could be until someone beats Crawford. I'm going to roll with him. I don't mind losing when I'm going with my guy until he loses. I'm going to roll with him." Moreover, Crawford has been adamant about pursuing only legacy-defining bouts before retiring, with his main focus set on challenging the super middleweight champion, Saul Canelo Alvarez. Had he started at 147, Ennis would have been his prime challenger. Ennis has dazzled audiences with a number of standout performances in an interview with Fight Hub TV towards the end of last year. Baram Crawford's former promoter praised Ennis as an exceptional boxer. However, he strongly maintained that his past fighter remains invincible in that weight class. Aram said, "I know that Boots Ennis is a tremendous fighter and a great ability. Whether he would stand a chance with Crawford, I don't really know because at 147 Crawford is, I think, unbreakable the same way Shocker is at 135, but Ennis is probably, other than Crawford, the best welterweight out there." Make sure to check out some of our other videos on the screen if you like this one.